All right, folks in cyberspace, at this time, we want to welcome you to our broadcast. And before anything else, I want to say we apologized. We were live just about 6:30 earlier, and we were having some technical issues with the sound. That has been resolved, and we are live now. And we are live, and we are live according to Ms. Nene, and I'm happy to be here. My name is Anthony C. Hostin. This is the Hour of Politics, focus on Liberia in studio. Two outstanding guests discuss the topic, the Weah Doctrine. But before we get into that topic, we will look at something we try to describe here as a water cooler movement. That would be around the $6,000 being given to lawmakers, while our people cannot afford a corporate. Darlington here, who is my guest, will agree with me. Mind you, in Nicrutan is still hustling for one corporate, and these guys are walking away with $6,000. And the justification is it was budgeted. Really, in this time. Well, my guest will break that all time. Also, Robert Gagwa is here in studio as another panelist in this very interesting conversation. Folks, hit that share button quickly. Let's get started. We don't have much time to get this business done. We are here to look into the Weah Doctrine. But before I welcome my guests here, let me do something for you. Many people are wondering, what is the Weah Doctrine? I mean, some people say, well, have you written a book, or has anybody written about the Weah Doctrine? Well, let me say to you, doctrine, by definition, is a stated principle of government policy, meaning in foreign and military affairs. Sometimes it can be in economic affairs. It's a set of belief, either by a church, by a group, that is taught by that group, and inform their worldview and their model of operandi on the issues they care about. And so it does not have to be written in a book. But again, don't forget, we are having a water cooler movement. And so without much ado, let me welcome to the microphone, the man, Robert Gagwa. Robert, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, sir. I extend thanks and appreciation to you guys for extending me another invitation to be on. I'm no stranger to your show, and are we introducing ourselves?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, and look, it's always an honor to be on your show to discuss issues relative to Liberia. And for those who don't know me, my name is Robert Gagwa, Liberian residing in the state of Georgia, Atlanta to be precise. I'm the vice president of the Liberian Association in metropolitan Atlanta. We have approximately about 15 to 20,000 Liberians residing in this state. And above all, I like to describe myself as an humanitarian. I love my country, love giving back, and I find passion in that area. And so I look forward to a substantive dialogue, and we will share our thoughts on what we think the Weah Doctrine is and other issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And Darlington, who is Darlington Collins?
Well, sometimes it's kind of really tough, talking about myself, But I put it in simple terms. Darlington Collins, is a retired youth and student leader. Some may say, but Darlington, you appear very young, What is retirement? Well, it goes way back, when we first ventured around youth and student politics. We play our role with the Federation of Liberian Youth, Liberian National Student Union, the Mana River Union Youth Parliament. Many of these brothers some of them who are on the stage now, they'll tell you, I mean, yes, we play little role. I don't want to say we play meaningful role, because to do that would be, I'm trying to, I don't want to trumpet my own horn, but people here who following the live Facebook presentation, will bear me witness. It's a pleasure being on your platform, Mr. CA. I think this is my first appearance on Focus on Liberia. It's really a privilege and honor.
Thank you so much. And we are more than happy to have you. And folks, I know you hit that share button, so we will get started here quickly. And so, gentlemen, before we go into our main topic, which is the Weah Doctrine, there's a lot of noise going around about $6,000 given to lawmakers, when in fact, the stimulus package, those who it is intended for, they haven't received a dime yet. The rest they talk about, we don't know what WFP has started to start dividing the rest for our people to have some food so that they can see reason to stay home since they are in a lockdown. But then the lawmakers are parting with 6G each. Robert, your take. Isn't it constitutional? It was budgeted, right? So it's okay.
Well, first of all, let me just state, we are in, very challenging times, and I believe that it should be the concern of us all, government, private institutions, oppositions, all well-meaning Liberian. I think this is a moment for us to come together and address this national crisis. Now, let me just go to that point. Yes, it is constitutional, but I like to think that not everything that's constitutional or not everything that's legal or legitimate is good. I mean, let's put this in perspective. You have health workers in Liberia who gets paid $15 to $20 a day. I didn't say per hour, $15 to $20 per day. If you do the math, I'm not a good math student because I did fail math in college. But if you do the math, and they're working, let's just say 26 days with the exception of Sunday, you have health workers that are taking home less than $500 or $600 roughly a month. And to add insult to injury, this fund is not even paid on time, right? There are health workers who have worked a month, and folks have decided to pay them for 12 days. Now, when you look at lawmakers makes about $15,000, $16,000 monthly. This does not even include the perks and benefits. Why any sane Liberian, why anyone who cares about his or her country, whether or not you're a lawmaker, will accept or will sign on to an idea that includes in the budget $180,000 for what they call or term operational fund. What exactly is the operational fund? When you have health workers, when we're in a national crisis, you have health workers who are on the front lines, folks who are risking their lives and the lives of their families, are shortchanged and not getting paid the right amount for the job that they do for all of us, for our protection, for our safety. And you have these guys pocketing $6,500 and they can't adequately explain exactly what that operational is. It is baffling. It is wrong. It is wrong and it's unethical. No one in his or her right mind, no patriot would agree to this. And so I think it's bogus. That $180,000, if I was a lawmaker in Congress, I would not have accepted this. I would have suggested that that fund be redirected to health workers because they are the one on the front lines, they are the one risking their lives, and they are the one who should benefit from that money. This is ridiculous. There's nothing that justifies this. I'm sorry for being so passionate about this, but this is absurd.
All right, Darlington, you just listened to Robert that, and he's been tough. Why was sounding like this?
I mean, when you discuss the welfare of your country, there's nothing wrong, to be emotional. But amidst the emotion, you want to take a breather and allow, persuasion and reasoning to dominate the debate. You see, let me go back on the budget, the issue about the budget.
Okay.
Liberians need to understand that the way the legislature works, when the executive present, the draft budget to the legislature, when the legislature concurs with the executive, it becomes a law. The budget automatically becomes a lawful working tool for the Republic of Liberia. So it was budgeted for in the fiscal period on a review. That accounts for the $180,000 by lawmakers for operational expense. The coronavirus was it came as a point in time where nobody thought that it could come. Nobody see it coming. That money was already allotted for in the budget. I would agree with many people who have argued that the timeliness for lawmakers to have accepted such money, I think it was wrong, for lawmakers to have accepted such money, especially in these difficult times amidst the huge national healthcare crisis, that is knocking on the doors of our country. I think the lawmakers should have then redirected that resources to healthcare. We could bring, pretty close to not more than, 20 to 25 ventilators in the country to deal with the issue of the coronavirus. I think the legislature could have been more proactive, in dealing with that. But again, this is beside the point. I see on social media Liberians, especially brothers from the ruling establishment, the Congress, the Coalition for Democratic Change, under the coalition arrangement. I see them giving latches to Senator Abraham Darius DeLong, and we all were baffled by the New Dawn newspaper publication on yesterday, volume 10, number 62, where they said senators receive money, $180,000 to concur with the executive on the passage of the state of emergency. That went to the press. The New Dawn, blew the image of Senator DeLong on the front cover of a paper. It went haywire. And if you're saying senators, I could have understood the New Dawn better, but they to put the images of the leaders of the legislature on the front cover. Who's the leader of the Liberian legislature? Is the Speaker of the House of Representatives. If you want to go to the Senate, you could have, blow the picture of Albert here on the front cover of the debate. So yes, national leaders, they will not always do things right. That is why their performance is subject to, public scrutiny and debate. We have the right to X-ray their performance. But let me say here on this platform that the 6,005 or lump sum of 180,000, we couldn't have heard about that. Mr. C.A., if Mr. Abraham Darius DeLong didn't say that on the Joy FM, the whole country could have gone to auto silence. We don't know how much monies that have been, going to the legislature under the cover of darkness. We do not have this information. So, but the fact that Mr. Abraham Darius DeLong informed the public in dollars and cents how much they received from the legislature, whether it was operational fund, we can debate, the prudence in the legislature accepting such money. Mind you now, that money had already been accounted for the period under review. And when the budget is passed by the legislature, it becomes law. Could we also, rejuvenate another argument that moving forward, we will look, particularly into the legislature and make sure that we're not just, leaving monies unaccounted for, in side corners that no one will be able to account for those monies. So Mr. DeLong did, nothing wrong. I mean, he informed the public how much was in it for the legislature, especially for operation. And looking at the intent, DeLong is telling us what he's doing with his resources. He's telling us that he's catering to... And
Darlington, let me jump in here quickly.
Right.
You just mentioned trying to give Darius DeLong a little bit of pat on his back, right, for disclosing that amount. Other than that, maybe we will not know by now, but I guarantee you, we will have gotten to know sometime in the near future, in my opinion. But the thing is,
after how many months when the money have been eaten?
The thing is, was there money intended? My question is, was there money intended for them to use for coronavirus intervention in their respective districts or with their respective constituents? Or was there money given to them as a setting fee for concurring, on the proposal that was sent to them by the president? What was their intention?
No, the legislature is already been paid for the work they do. Let's get that clear.
Okay.
They've been paid to go to work. So whether they go to sit, to have extra sitting,
right?
The monies that come from the executive, on this operational thing, quote unquote, I'll be clear here and tell you plain blank and simple.
Okay.
The executive did, if it was a legislative setting fee, the nomenclature could have carried a legislative setting fee. It didn't carry that. The money had already been accounted for in the approved budget that is under review.
Okay.
That money was already approved, except somebody want to rejuvenate another argument that we should violate the law. Because you see, in law, you want to look at the doctrine of precedence. I understand, as good as it would sound, you know, the lawmakers shouldn't have money for operation. Yeah, the way they run operation in their little constituency or in a different constituency, it's basically broad-based and how they intend to, you know, use their own wisdom. So we gave you operational funds. You go to, I mean, in the lower house, they call it district development funds. They receive that through the county. Mm-hmm. So if senators are receiving $180,000, Senator Dillon informed us. We could have known it's possible, but after how many months down the road?
All right, thank you. Let me come to Robert. Robert, quickly.
Yeah, please, because look, I respect my friend and brother Darlington tremendously, and I think he makes a lot of great points. But look, let's be clear. And I want to, if I can take 2 minutes, the idea that you are giving Abraham Dallon credit for disclosing the amount, you know, I don't think that's something that deserves credit. But I want you to understand why people single him out, right? Why he was the face of that news. Abraham Dillon was elected on the premise of being the light. I still don't understand exactly what that is, but I assume is because he was the guy who was supposed to go in the Senate to switch on the light where darkness existed, right? And so when you put it in layman terms, he complained about the $40,000 to $50,000 that was spent on vehicle purchases for lawmakers, even though they make $15,000. Look, we all work in corporate America. I'm not a rich guy, but I'm comfortable. I make good money. My job don't purchase my car. I purchase my own car. 80% of Americans make good money. They also bear the responsibility to transport themselves back and forth to work. You look at a poor country like Liberia, and you have lawmakers making so much more than they should be making. And on top of that, you have government responsibility to purchase them vehicle, money that could be budgeted or redirected to education, for instance, or health, right? So we already knew how much lawmakers made. It was just a speculation, right? We knew these guys were making close to $15,000 way back in 2007, 2008, right? So the idea now that we must give him credit for disclosing the amount and accuracy, it makes no sense to me. Look, like I stated earlier, no one is saying that the action of the $180,000 is illegal. No one is saying that it's not law. But like I said, and I will say again, not everything that is legal or that is law is right. The question is, let me tell you something. When the president sent his package over to the Senate, the political leader of Liberty Party went on Facebook and said that the package had nothing in there for the threat, which was the health threat, right? And yes. So look, if you are concerned about nothing being in the package that addressed the health threat, and you are also accepting $180,000 that could go towards addressing that health threat when you have health workers on the front lines not being paid adequately, then it's a problem. So if you brand yourself as this light, as this change agent, then you must act differently. Accepting $6,500, it's not change. Let me tell you something. The money has been spent. According to someone, someone said Dillon gave his staff $1,000. The money has been allocated to folks re-roofing their homes. What exactly is the operation? What exactly is the operation? Is it a primary responsibility of lawmakers to have operational budget for constituents? Does it make any sense? Why do we support things that normally don't make any sense in the nation? It doesn't.
Robert, let's bring Yonton in.
Robert, let me ask you. So with the 180,000 in question, what do you think could have been done? Was it feasible? Was it okay for DeLong to have refused his strong portion of it?
I think that if I was a senator, right, I would have suggested on the floor that given the current crisis that we find ourselves, and given all of the challenges, I would have suggested that that money be redirected to the health care workers. Because as we stand right now, they are the ones putting their lives on the line to protect us all and to help curtail this virus.
All right,
Okay?
all right. Thank
That's
you,
what I
Robert.
would have done.
Thank you. Comrade Yonton, let me bring you in. We are all talking about the lawmakers. Darlington point he raised about how could Darrell Diron be the only one picture on a story that talking about a money that was divided, you know, to all the lawmakers. That's a fair point, and whoever did that, somebody can say it was intentional. Maybe because they are holding in a very a high esteem. But Yonton, where I want you to come in is that somebody said this money was allotted as fees for then ratifying the proposal that the president sent to them, which is the whole entire stimulus package. If that is anything true at all, so does the president have any reason, or do we have reason, or can anybody have a reason to hold the president accountable here too? Because we have a crisis and you want to pay lawmakers, somebody might think that you are bribing them, whereas somebody might say, well, it's the normal legislative process. Isn't this the bad precedent that we've been talking about?
Well, the setting fee has always been part of the making of the national legislature.
Okay.
It is not unique to this administration. But I would like to backdrop it because what is wrong yesterday and was advocated against yesterday is also wrong today.
Thank you.
I want to side with Robert in terms of his point in the session. And I think there were more better things that we could do in this period of national health crisis. According to the World Health Organization, Liberia still is lagging behind in terms of the actual fight and having the kind of capacity. We're talking about PPEs and ventilators. I think the country already has only 180,000 at a rate of 30,000 per ventilator on the world market could give you about 6, which is going to be very useful to the increasing cases that we are experiencing now as a nation when it comes to the fight against the coronavirus. So there are many things that we could do with that amount. But I think the bottom line is about transparency, and that's where this debate is about. The media will obviously want to carry its own sensation. As much as Darrell Diron has been nailed on the cross, all of the 29 lawmakers have not done justice to the Liberian people. So why is the concern and the focus on DeLong and not all the other remaining lawmakers, which also includes CDC lawmakers and senators who were part and parcel of signing for this 6,500 that was given and dished out by the executive.
All right, gentlemen, let's leave it right there. We have to go into our main topic. It's still a debatable issue. And our main topic here for today, folks who are listening to us here, focus on Liberia via Facebook, is the Weah Doctrine. What is the Weah Doctrine? To discuss this, our guests are here. We have Mr. Robert Gagwa and we have Darlington Collins. Mr. Larama Yamton is also in studio, but he's playing the role of a co-host. He is co-hosting with me here at the Hour of Politics. Gentlemen, you know, let's see here. Our goal here in this topic is we will be examining the policies and action of President Weah and what it says about his political philosophy and what does Weah believe and how does he want to govern. I think it is on those lines that we will be trying to give a definition practically about the Weah Doctrine. So let's look at policies, let's look at decisions, Let's look at appointments. Let's look at the composition of the government. Let's look at how he handles unification. Let's look at how he handles the issue of accountability. Let's look at how he's doing on promises and the execution of those promises. And then we will look at, his economic policy implementation. Somebody might call it Weah-economics or Weah-nomics. We will discuss all that, and at the end of the day, we will see how best we can give a unique explanation or definition.
Anthony, can we? Oh, okay, can we check our video? I think they say they can hear the audio. They're not seeing the video.
Yes, the video is frozen, but let's continue.
Okay.
After the show, we will take care of that. So let's start with you, Darlington. On this note, let's look at some initiatives, that the government have taken versus President Weah initiative. Do an analysis there and see whether or not we can put some context on the Weah doctrine. Let's look at a few things here on the president initiative and the government initiative. We heard about the coronavirus songs. We talk about the Weah project, actually, because in the Weah project, you have the bucket with his picture on it, you have the billboard with his picture on it, and the coronavirus song. And this man is singing. Somebody would think that there should be a national project or a program by the government in the fight against the coronavirus. So let's start with you. What's your say there?
Well, let me say this. The phrase "Weah Doctrine."
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think. I still find it hard to understand, to be honest. You see, the thing here is the government headed by President Weah have misplaced priority. That's the first and foremost thing. Okay. The leader of the country have issues with himself, believing himself and understanding that he's leader of the country and he needs to work in more meaningful ventures geared toward national development rather than personal initiative. The Weah's doctrine, if you like, we can label it basically on when since President Weah came to power, he has been, getting himself personally situated. Mr. Weah got sworn into office, in early 2018 on January, took office. Before we even reached to April or June, we have lined up 49 housing units, decorated and well-fully painted for himself. The coronavirus pandemic hit the entire world by surprise. What we needed to have seen from our leader was to exercise leadership. By doing that, you're talking about engaging the proper government ministry and agency so that you can create awareness. But again, the Weah's doctrine is, if you like, is more personal interest. This guy needs to understand that, he needs to get away from this fanatical style of politics. He loves fame. I understand he comes from the soccer background, but he needs to understand that politics is different, especially governance. Weah's doctrine, he came to power, started building his houses. He didn't even have time to cater to the ordinary masses of our people on whose back he came to power. Started landing off fleets of whom, breaking his houses down on 12th Street and building it. That is the Weah's project. Coronavirus, we saw images of President Weah, the misplaced priority. The president is running here, distributing buckets, mounting billboard, moving to the recording studio, right in a fucking clone church, and making music. I'm not saying the president, cannot make music. If the president is very versatile, he has the talent. I mean, he can go and make it to the Liberia Entertainment Award. We'll clap for him. But Mr. President, you are leader of Africa's oldest independent country. You need to do things very serious. Yeah. Look in the sub-region, Anthony. What are they talking about? They're not talking about Kufuor's project. They're not talking about the president of Sierra Leone. They're not talking about he's not talking about his personal project or personal glorification. In Ghana, every time you hear Nana Kufuor address the Ghanaian media, he's telling you where are they with the fight against the coronavirus. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He's the chief executive. So that is the same that applies to Weah, how he intends to, his seriousness, his commitment in the fight against the coronavirus. If you would bear me witness, when Liberia discovered her first case, it took the executive over days and weeks to even address the media. When the war broke up to the news that there was an outbreak in China, there were responsible, respectable Liberian citizens, particularly in the area of, you know, infectious disease control. You know, people who are epidemiologists, people who study, you know, these kinds of epidemic. A responsible Liberian medical doctor wrote the Ministry of Health and the National Public Health Institute, headed by Dr. Mosokan Fala. Dr. Christopher Dubana have warned the Liberian government way back in January, wrote them a communication informing them about, you know, things that we could fight the coronavirus. But what did our government do? Go to the executive mansion website. When this coronavirus thing started, to the airport, they mounted not just, they had a single just an ambulance parked on the outside of the airport. You coming through the airport, they got bucket, people washing hands, they're taking temperature. You had the director of the port. It's all about public relations.
Okay.
It's not about addressing the real healthcare emergency crisis. It's about fame. It's about a show off, and to borrow the word of former President Salih, showmanship.
That's the Weah Doctrine, in your opinion. Like I'm to you, Mr. Gagwa, and talking about the Weah Doctrine, how Weah operates. At some point, we heard about a building that was constructed allegedly by the president, or maybe not allegedly, but was constructed and turned over to the Liberia Female Journalists Association. Our understanding was that Mr. Weah is the one who constructed it, and he has given it to the female journalists. I don't know, was it a government project or it was President Weah project that he had turned? So it's hard to differentiate which is government's project and that of Mr. Weah. What is going on here?
Well, there's a lot to address that, but I'll try to go through that. Look, I first have to say that as we discussed the Weah's doctrine, let's just be clear that, you know, one of the reasons why I don't see myself fitting or affiliating with political parties in Liberia, I don't even describe them as political parties, more so as political clubs, is because of the lack of true political institutions, right? I don't understand what fundamentally distinguishes CDC from Liberty Party. I don't understand what distinguishes Liberty Parties fundamentally, ideology-wise, from Unity Party and so forth and so on, right? And so when you have institutions that don't have a clear definition of what they stand for politically on an ideology basis, it's very difficult to discuss what that doctrine of a leader might be, right? It's easy to explain to you what the Obama doctrine is. And you don't have to work, I didn't work in his inner circle to understand what that doctrine is. If you look at Obama foreign policy, it explains in summary his political doctrine. So the same as George Bush and other leaders, right? Because not only do they come from political institutions with fundamental, serious platform that help draw conclusions, but their leadership is very, very clear. And so it's hard to explain what the Weah doctrine is. It's very, very hard. And so what we are trying to do here is an attempt to actually look at what the platform is, right? And look at what his actions have been and make an attempt to share our thoughts on what that could possibly be. But I have to agree with my friend Darlington. I think that there has to be a clear leadership exhibited in this crisis. And I don't think that has been clear enough. I think the people over at the Ministry of Information has not been very clear, have not been very aggressive when it comes to the dissemination of information and giving clarity. Even when they talked about the lockdown, right? Is it a lockdown or is it a curfew, right? You have folks going out from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Some people don't understand what that actually is. And they have not given clarity. They have not come up to say, hey, here is what we're doing. Here is what it is. And so to understand the Weah doctrine, you have to look at what they have actually said. During the campaign, it was the pro-poll. And when the whole pro-poll slogan came out, one of the questions that I had in mind was, what does that mean? And in private and in public, I've asked this question. We all know generally what pro-poor means. You know, the literature that you draw from this literature is that pro-poor specifically seek to reduce policies that seeks to target the poor and that seeks to reduce poverty, right? And so when you go to Liberia and you ask people what that pro-poor means, whenever people says to you, we're in a pro-poor country, what follows is, so we have to manage. People are connecting poverty to the fact that government don't have money, to them managing whatever it is that they have to endure. And that has nothing to do with what pro-poor actually is. So that in itself is not very clear. Now you looked at the pro-poor agenda, right, for prosperity. I was taking a look at the pro-poor agenda for prosperity and development, the PD, and it again specifically talks about the distribution of worth, right? The equal distribution of worth, right? And so it is clear that this government wants to focus or center its attention on the poor, on worth distribution. But have their action actually reflected what it is that they want to do? And if you ask me that honestly, I would say no. So I think that this president still have time to clear the doubts and clear the air when it comes to what it is that he really wants to do, what it is that he really wants his legacy to reflect on. Is it the poor? And if it is the poor, if it is reducing poverty, if it is the equal distribution of worth, then the action have to actually match what it is that they want to do. And I think that there's a disconnect with that regards.
All right, that was Robert. Let me come in with a follow-up question, Robert. I know in your deliberation you said that it is kind of difficult to actually define what the Weah Doctrine is, but then you touched a little bit on the pro-poor agenda for prosperity and development. Now, if one could argue that the Weah Doctrine could be seen in line of the PAPD, which in addition has 4 basic pillars, but with a primary focus and objective on the people in terms of strengthening the capacity in providing income security for millions and millions of Liberians, and then also ensuring that there is a bridge between Liberians at home and Liberians in the diaspora to fit into the national agenda. Could you elaborate that could be a synonymous face of the Weah's doctrine that is heavily concentrated on the poor, and if that is so, are there possible ways through which we can say that his action in terms of projects that have been taken, even though he has labored in Weah project, but has been in line with the PAPD?
I think that there are good things that have happened when it comes to targeting the poor, or may I say uplifting the lives of the poor, right? When you looked at the housing projects, right, homes that have been built in slums, communities, not just in Monrovia, but in different counties and in the interior parts, I think you can say that that's a reflection. That's an effort to buttress what that doctrine actually is, to buttress what the PAPD goal or objectives are, right? But then again, if you look at the overall actions and things that have been done, let me give you an example. You can't talk about the equal distribution of worth without looking at the fight against corruption, because you're already talking about the country that's poor. The country don't have money. But if we are not properly managing what the small amount of money the country has, then it defeats the purpose of what you have on paper. There's no way you can equally distribute worth when it's not there, or when you're mismanaging what you currently have. And so what I'm trying to say is, on paper, we understand what that idea actually is, but it hasn't fully been implemented. There's not a clear picture with where the president is headed when it comes to that. And maybe it's because he's been in office for going 3 years. And like I said earlier, as time goes by, they may have done a lot more to give clarity on what that actually is. But for right now, it's hard to actually put your hands on what that doctrine actually is. When you're looking at personal agenda versus government agenda, I was confused when I saw pictures of buckets with the face of the vice president as opposed to the president, and then there were pictures of the foreign minister. So everyone in Weah's government is basically has their own project. So you have the Weah's project, you have the vice president project, you have the foreign minister project. Everyone has his own project rather than a unison approach to fighting this virus. So on paper, the idea is targeted towards the poor, uplifting the lives of the poor, equal distribution of wealth. But in actuality, it's not being done. And so there's a disconnect over there. And I think that there's still room for improvement, but as it stands right now, it's how to put your hand on it.
All right, folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is the hour of politics, and we are discussing the Weah Doctrine. We have in studio Darlington Collins. We have Rabba Gagwa in one of the panelists, along with Darlington Collins. My name is Anthony Sie, hosting also co-hosting with me.
Yeah, but just before we move a step forward,
right.
We all agree on this point that the quote-unquote Weah's doctrine is a scattered agenda.
And that's why I was coming to you to ask a question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
From what Robert just explained, what I got from there is that individuals within this government are more like about their own image as opposed to a government being a team with a national project that is being implemented through the specific government institutions that are in line with those projects. In the case of coronavirus, why would the president be the one? All right, why would the vice president, picture have to be on the bucket, and then the other government official follow? So what I'm trying to get at is that this is a government that is about promoting individuals as opposed to promoting the image of the country or the government as they tackle and solve all of these problems. Maybe that is the Weah Doctrine, because Weah started it with the building of his own projects, building another building, giving it to the female, and then the military hospital carrying 14 military because he wore a number 14 before, and everybody following suit. Is that a Weah Doctrine yet? Darlington?
It's a scattered agenda. It is all about personal glorification. You see, but let me zoom in on some of the things Robert said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Robert, one thing we should avoid in these kinds of discourses, is to, continuing to put everybody in the same basket, because the CDC is underperforming. They will say, okay, all the political parties, I don't think they have an agenda or they are well-defined or structured or have an agenda. For example, I'm not a member of any of these parties, but I know the Liberty Party, from 2005, they have been having the 4 hours. They have been reviewing the 4 hour. They have been making modification on things as a working tool that where the Liberty Party, come to power, they will have a working tool already set in place with the 4 hours. Unlike the CDC, there wasn't no clear plan, no discipline, no doctrine that they were projecting before their entry to power. The guys took over the country extremely nervous. I don't want to say nervous, I think extremely ignorant, basically. They didn't have a clue on where to drive the ship. So we just started hearing these things, slogans chanting pro-poor. Pro-poor, the typical understanding, seek to improve the living condition of the poor people, prioritizing their own interests. What do we see Mr. Weah do? Robert talked about we are building houses in slum communities. Where, Robert? Name those communities. You see, the way you work on national priorities, and let me be clear here, when the budget go before the legislature, the first parent that have a view of the budget is the executive, because they are the one that do revenue intake. They are the inside source. They see the budget from within. They know where monies are coming from. They know where loopholes are. They know they can explore opportunities within the national budget. So if Mr. Weah, take pleasure in infrastructure development, the one thing we want to say to Mr. Weah, that as you want to do these things as nice as they will sound, Mr. Weah needs to understand that he needs to put these things through the national budget. They need to go through the budgetary process. They need to go through the legislative approval. Just a few minutes ago was dwelling on the 180,000 by lawmakers for operations. But we are not even zooming the light on the first lady. She is still receiving her $1.5 million of taxpayers' resources. That has been unprecedented in the history of our country. That a singular person, the office of the first lady, will be taking $1.5 million. It's completely ridiculous. So you see Mr. Weah running here and there with buckets, with pictures, mounting. It's all about imaging. Look, Mr. Weah, you leader of the country. You play soccer, you professional soccer star. You well accomplished, especially within your own professional career. You venture into politics. You created something called pro-poll, chanting slogan pro-poll. Is this government actually pro-poll or pro-crooks? You took over the country. There were issues about asset declaration. You refuse to declare your assets, to inform the people how much you came to public office with, your liabilities as well. We want to know these things. So if Mr. Weah love, infrastructure development, he want to build, homes for people. I come from Grand Crew, but we do not reconcile a nation and people in unity. Where this president will be, sectionalizing the country. He only want to focus, development priority projects within particular areas that he comes from. You cannot be, you cannot be segregating our people. You jump into Grand Crew, you come from South Side, you wanted to build houses. Did it go to the national budget? Who's in charge of those projects? The National Housing Authority. Are they involved? Where is the money coming from? Where is the project being supported from? We need to know these questions. Mr. Weah is not a humanitarian. Mr. Weah was extremely broke. I mean, many Liberians that were agree with me. He came to power simply with nothing, extremely broke. He came to the presidency. So all of a sudden, people want us to believe that Mr. Weah is a humanitarian. He's building houses here and there. So, just to zero in on this thing called, Weah's Doctrine, is a fanatical politics, political patronage, where we see people who are underperforming, incompetent public officials. Mr. Weah gave them big government job, lucrative job. Some of these jobs that they don't even have no clue, no technical capacity on what they are doing.
All right.
So we have put these people in there only because it's a political patronage system, because some of them were in the CDC, they supported Mr. Weah. He sees it as a way of paying back. But Mr. Weah, you are the leader of the country. That is not how you do it. You need to get all hands on deck. Go for your human resource, capacity of whether it comes from in the opposition, regardless of where it comes from. I'm not saying put opposition people in strategic positions. Absolutely, I will not do that. I will not encourage Weah to do so. But technical positions that have to do with policy making, decision making, integrous institution and audits. So this whole Weah thing is a scattered agenda.
Thank you. Thank you. Comrade Yonton, let's move to this segment about the composition of the government. Yeah, you get us started on the whole composition of the government, appointing people here and there. Comrade Yonton.
Yeah, so Robert, we'll start with you. But before we move to that, let's just summarize this whole session on the Weah's Doctrine. Mm-hmm. I know there have been a lot said between the two panelists. Mm-hmm. Darlington believe is a scattered agenda, and this agenda, there's no such thing as the Weah Doctrine. It is based on fame and showmanship, using his exact words and quoting the former Liberian president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. He also disagreed that not all, in addition to the CDC not having an agenda, but not all political parties, can be placed in the same basket. Rather, I argue that the PAPD is only on paper. The reality really does not reflect. And the analysis coming out of the two panelists is that while it is true that government is a collection of individuals but those individuals has to be led by specific unified policies, and these individuals have to be an amalgamation of experts and technicians who will be willing to drive government policies. And in the case of the Weah-led government, the PAPD happens to be the primary government policy that will advance the economic growth of our people. So we hope that the Weah government can be able to go back to its primary document that it launched a few months after the inception of the Weah administration, which had two basic objectives. The first objective is to strengthen Liberians' capacity, is to ensure that they build trust institutions that are very reliable, trust institutions such as integrated institutions like the GAC and the LACC, and to ensure that they are providing income security for about 23% of all Liberians, which will constitute an additional 1 million Liberians who will be pulled out of poverty as a result of the PAPD. So we hope that what's on paper can be actually implemented and that government officials can be true to what they say on paper. So we can move on to the next aspect of the discourse, which happens to do appointment. Robert, I would like to start with you. What do you make of the appointment of subsequently to withdrawal of that same appointment by the at the level of the National Elections Commission with the name Nibuziki, right?
Wambodiki. Dubuzi Nambodiki.
Well,
Take the floor.
Thank you. Well, before I answer that, let me just be clear. I am not here to defend the government. It's clear that my brother.
The government have a million laches here, boo.
I'm not here to defend the government. I do not affiliate with any political party in Liberia. I've always said that my loyalty remains to Liberia and the improvement and development of my country. And so, where I see wrong, I speak up, and where there's a need to applaud, I will. And that's just that. And so I just want to be clear. But with regards to that appointment, I think that the president dropped the ball. And in the sense that whenever you are making appointments, or whenever you are picking candidates, whether it's a VP candidate or whatnot, I think it's important to have in place a team that is qualified enough to do a robust vetting. I think vetting is key and very, 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 very important to ensuring that the candidate that is being nominated actually is not only qualified for the position he or she has been nominated for, but meets the requirements, the legal requirements. And so looking at this gentleman and the presentations that were made, some of the things that he said, I think were very troubling and very contradicting. And so I would not have made that nomination. I wouldn't even suggest that without thoroughly going through a vetting process to ensure that all of the questions relative to public concerns, such as his nationality and so forth and so on, were answered. But I do have another side of that. So let's be clear: the leadership, the president, I think they dropped the ball, and I've said continuously that every great leader requires a backing or support system that not only reflects his or her vision, but his or her legacy. And I have problems with some of the folks that have that surrounded with Weah. I think that they are hurting him more so than helping. But my other quarrel with that is how lazy our public officials are. Here is a gentleman who, by all means, constitutionally has the right to become citizen of Liberia, because our constitution is very clear. I'm not a constitutional scholar, but the constitution is very clear that anyone of Negro descent can become citizen of Liberia if he or she followed the right process. Okay, and so there's no argument about him becoming like a Liberian citizen. But the question is, how did we get here? You have a guy who applied to our highest court in Liberia, the Supreme Court, to become a member of the Bar Association. And I presume that in order for the court to have approved, okay, or for him to have gone through that process, they would have examined thoroughly all of the documentations presented. They would have done their due diligence to make sure that every information or everything that was given to them met the requirement at its fullest extent. This guy has practiced law in Liberia for decades. He's lived in Liberia for decades. He's benefited from things, from privileges only the Constitution only affords to Liberian citizens, such as practicing law. And so I was very disappointed, irrespective of what was going on from the executive point of view. The fact that it didn't go through the proper vetting process and all of the different things, the fact that it didn't show that all of these questions were answered. I was disappointed with our system. And it further proves that our system is very impaired. Our system is broken, and we have to do a lot. If you looked at the time that that he went through that process, I know there were lots of things that wasn't in place. But are you telling me that we still could not ensure that this man met the full requirement to become a Liberian citizen? Are we saying that we could not ensure that when he applied to become a lawyer in Liberia that he met the full requirements? And so I was disappointed with that regards. Now with the Senate, remember, this gentleman was nominated to become a lot, right? And in December, and I stand corrected, in December of 2019, by December 14, there was still arguments about his citizenship. There were still questions about his citizenship at the Senate. And I'm not sure exactly on what grounds did the Senate approve him. He's currently the chairman of the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission. And a few months later, he's nominated to this position. And so the question that I've been asking is, on what grounds, even though that question was raised at that time, at that hearing, but he was still approved? So on what grounds was he approved? And what is the problem now? Because the same issue we're having right now, when he was there in December, are the same issues being raised today. And then people are saying, well, the position is different. It shouldn't matter. Whether he's been nominated for education minister, you have to make sure that he is within our constitutional requirement to meet the full requirement as a Liberian citizen to occupy a benefit from those privileges. And so all of this, points to the lack of thorough vetting from the executive perspective, but also points to how lazy our public officials are. Everything we knew about this gentleman was told by himself. His questionable documentation, when he applied at age 17, which does not meet what the Constitution says, everything we knew about this gentleman was said by him. The Senate could not use whatever power they had to even bring forth documentation to end this whole argument. They couldn't do that. So look, we have to do better. We have to do better. We have to do better at electing officials that are not only qualified to do the job, but officials that actually have the country at heart.
All right.
Thank you. You want to come in? Or you
Yeah, go ahead, Comrade.
Comrade Collins.
Yes.
Given all that we know right now with the LACC boss who was turned down and subsequently his nomination by the president was withdrawn, given all we know and all of these skeletons that have come out of his closet, do you think he should be prosecuted under the Liberian law?
Well, I mean, just before I answer your question, let me say here very clearly and, you know, equivocally for our listening audience that the president didn't do his job. The doctrine of superior respondent fall on the back of the president. It is the prerogative of the president to appoint officials and send them to the legislature for scrutiny, especially the Liberian Senate, you know, for confirmation. But I'll be honest with you to tell you, if I were in the Senate, the first thing we're going to do is to hold the bucker in contempt for lying to the Senate on an oath. This man openly lied before the Liberian Senate, and senators allowed this man to go home and lay in the comfort of his bed. It's unfortunate. You see, this Liberian Senate, and I want to be very clear here. You know, you see, when the debate about Wambodiki, you know, started, you know, people, you know, a lot of misreaction was coming on social media. You know, I started to question some, you know, key issues. On what grounds would the Senate, you know, possibly deny him? This may have gone before the very same Liberian Senate, nominated to 2 different positions. The first position he was nominated to, or he held, was the Governance Commission chairman of the GC. He went to the Liberian Senate. Later on, the president renominated Wambodike to the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. He went again to the Liberian Senate. Later, I know, after reading, you know, a front page Africa story, that Wambodike didn't go through a Senate confirmation hearing for the 2 positions he held. So what were the Senate doing? The Senate, the appropriate committee responsible for that. We pay lawmakers to go into the Senate and do a piece of job. So how on their watch, this 54th legislature, on 2 different positions Wambodike was nominated to, that they didn't bring him to scrutiny, they never asked the hard question, only, and we must be careful here. When the president then appoints him to the National Elections Commission, because, you know, senators are political people, they want to be extremely careful who go to the National Elections Commission. Then we want to put on all of our political lenses and start to scrutinize.
Exactly.
That is deception, that is dishonesty, and that should have no space in our democracy. And I'm going to be here on the record, because this guy, as notorious as it is a criminal by all definition of the highest term, was being uncovered by the Liberian Senate. He went to 2 integral institutions in our country. He held the Governance Commission. He went to the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission. The president didn't do his job. The legislature, I mean the 54th legislature, they never exercised the due diligence. But when the issue of politics interplay, when the man was nominated at the Elections Commission, then lawmakers started to crap baby, and we saw the likes of Councillor Sherman taking, you know, books to the Senate. It's hypocrisy.
And quickly, gentlemen,
can I come in?
What does the whole appointment thing that the president has been making, Wambodike, a case study here, say about his entire doctrine, the Weah doctrine? You know, does he appoint on the basis of friendship? Does he appoint on the basis of partisanship? Does he appoint on the basis of, you know, who supported him, who he benefits from? You know, let's look at it from the Weah mindset. You know, how does he appoint people? On what basis? What yardstick is the president using in appointing his people? Darlington, quickly, then Robert, hold on.
You know, you see, the thing is, I think the Liberian people, we have problem with using the proper yardstick for the presidency. Because the Salon man say, Pekin see what Pekin do. A leader is a reflection of who you are. Mr. Weah came to power very, you know, uncouth, inept, highly underperforming in all of his different professional career. You dedicated the nation's highest seat of the presidency to Weah. You made him president. or you think the man who have little capacity going to bring people with huge capacity around him? Absolutely not. So what Mr. Weah did was to solicit, you know, the expertise of people who aren't, you know, qualified. Look, we can name your tongues and tongues of public officials who are unprepared. He take the likes of Nathaniel McGill, sister, and make her deputy minister to finance for fiscal affairs. Just let it go before the legislature. They ask her, what is your understanding about fiscal policy? You do not even need to go to the university to understand what is fiscal arm of the government or what is monetary policy, fiscal and monetary policy. You don't. You can deal with that just from high school fundamental economics. The woman went to the Liberian Senate, they asked her that question, she shouted the name of Jesus. These kinds of things.
And the name of Jesus being powerful got her confirmed.
That's the Minister of Fiscal Affairs. So it just, what does that signify to you about the kind of person we have as president?
Look,
Even the guy who was nominated first as Minister of Justice, Councillor Charles Gibson, when Mr. Weah took over, no, you see, and let me say here, I'm a strong critic of Mrs. Salim. You know, I believe some of the things she did, you know, were good, but on the overall, if you ask me to grade Mrs. Salim, I would grade her C. Or overall government performance, I would grade Madame Salim C. Madame took over when Madame Salim released the first listing of public officials, Anthony. We heard the legs of, you know, Olobanki King, Augustine P. Gafwan, you know, Samuel Kofi Woods, you know, Tiawon Gonglo, Geraldine McPeer. People who have worked in professional, you know, settings, who have got serious academic training. These were the kind of people that Madame Salim preferred to leadership. Unlike George Weah, look at the first batch of the main listing. You had the legs of Charles Gibson. President Weah didn't even know that this man is a fraud. He's been suspended by the National Bar Association. So President Weah surrounded himself with crooks, cash money balls, if you like, BM, they call them. He brings them to the country and give them, look at how they may reward public offices. When you are on Facebook, you go head to head with people pretty much, you know, creating, you know, throwing invectives at people. You're making these kinds of, you know, vociferous comments about, you know, about protecting his political hegemony. He rewards you with public office.
For example.
Look, example, the Eugene Fangon is a classic example. The Americans, one of our traditional allies, they did a communication advising Mr. President about how Eugene Fangon was being seen very divisive. The executive mansion of the Republic, they were compelled to take action. They suspended Mr. Fangon for a couple of weeks, pretty much, if I still be correct on that.
Sure.
In no time, the executive reinstated Mr. Fangon. So yeah, it's all about political patronage system. Eugene Fangon is completely like a Sophia in London. He do not understand the Liberian political politics. He do not know the landscape. You take him, he comes from somewhere here in the US, and you make him deputy minister for public affairs at the Ministry of Information. So it's you see, to be Minister of Information or deputy at that level, you must firstly understand the working of the Liberian media. It's not just by coming on social media and making loud mouth talking. No.
All right, Darlington, thank you. Let me come to Robert.
You are part of the government propaganda machinery. You deal more or less with information dissemination. But Eugene deal with more attacking people in the opposition rather than, look, I tell you this for a fact. I was talking to a friend of mine in government.
Yeah, quickly, so we can come to Robert.
Now, yes, we are in opposition, but in some places that we don't see, that the light has not been zoomed on, I cannot tell you that from the one Mr. Weah took power, he scored 0. He probably could have been making significant strides, but whose duty it is to inform the public? It is the people at the level of the information arm. If Mr. Weah is making meaningful progress, it is not my job to go look for that information. It is the people who sit at the Ministry of Information. It is their job. They get paid to do that, to inform the public about government projects and programs. But when political leaders in the country advise on economic state of affairs, they insult you, they call you name. When that you will see Felicia will start to run after me. Instead of you tell us what your government, what are you doing?
Thank you, Darlington. Let's come to Robert.
You know,
let's come to Robert. And Robert, on the question of the Weah Doctrine in terms of appointments, you know, we saw Zoli Zoe, who made threats, you know, on social media. He had to land a government job. So this thing is about who glorifies President Weah, or who is qualified, or who is a sedition. How does he make the decision?
Well, I don't think, if we're being honest, I don't think that, and I like Darlington's passion. I love listening to him. Look, I don't think that this is a weird problem, right? This is a Liberian mentality, right?
Okay.
They appoint people who help got them elected, people who are their friends. It's not about folks that are more qualified to get the job done. It's about relationships and people and partisanship, right? And so I don't think this started with George Weah, if we're being honest. If you looked at a guy like Eugene Falcon, I've had mine run-ins with him. I have my differences with him. I don't think he fits the position. I've also said that I don't think there's a need for the Ministry of Information. I think we should be focused more on tourism, okay? Because that's where you create jobs. My background is hospitality management, so I think we should focus more on tourism. That's where we'll create jobs and eliminate the Ministry of Information part, because I don't see exactly how effective that is to governments are working. Look, let's go back to what Darlington said. He said the president dropped the ball. I think I stand corrected. I think we concur on one note, which is that the Senate, not only was the president ineffective and his team ineffective when it comes to recommending this gentleman, the Senate was ineffective. Look, there's a reason why you have three branches of government. And that is, in summary, to ensure an effective government and the protections of citizens' rights. Okay, and so if the executive branch of government drops the ball and sends in some guy from Georgia, for instance, who's white, and the executive says, this guy, I think this guy has the qualification to become our commissioner for election. It is the duty of the legislature, it's the duty of lawmakers to do the check and balance, to oversight, to do what it is that they're supposed to do. And so, in as much as I believe that the executive dropped the ball when it comes to vetting this guy and making sure that all of the questions, all of the dots were connected, you can use that as an excuse as to why we have a lazy and ineffective lawmakers. There's absolutely no excuse. Look, I was watching one of the hearings, and Representative Joseph was asking one of the commissioners about whether or not she knew how to speak her dialect, and whether or not she coached Dumba, or whatever it is. Are you, GB? Are you kidding me? And I wrote a post on Facebook, and I said, well, I'm from Boston.
Let me judge. I'm sorry.
No, 1 second. Let me land. I didn't interrupt you. Let me land. And look, I'm from Boston. I left Liberia at the age of 7 years old due to the war. I don't know how to speak Boston, unfortunately. But what does that have to do with why I'm there? The position in which I've been nominated for. Why are we asking irrelevant and to many extent dumb questions such as, do you know how to cook GB, or can you speak the dialect? It makes absolutely no sense. So in itself, it summarizes the joke of our politics in Liberia. It summarizes the joke of our politics in Liberia. And so when it comes to connecting the president's doctrine, George Weah doctrine, to his appointment, look, like I said earlier, it's hard to put your hand on what the Weah doctrine is. We can conclude, or we will concur, that because of what the proper agenda is, because of what the PD talks about, we can agree that they are trying to focus on the poor. They're targeting the poor, equal distribution of wealth, and so forth and so on. The implementation part is a problem. But when it comes to these appointments, this is something that happened for decades, And let me make this last point. When you have people like Senator Dillon, and let me be very clear, I don't hate Senator Dillon. I love this guy. You know, there are things about him that I love. I love the fact that he comes on and he keeps his folks engaged. But the last time I checked, the core responsibilities of our lawmakers were not on Facebook. The people that watches his Facebook are not part of his constituents. are not people who vote for him necessarily. I'm not saying they're not part of our political discourse, or I'm not saying they shouldn't be encouraged, but the truth of the matter is they are not part. This gentleman went and signed a bill for when we were discussing the naturalization, the dual citizenship bill. He affixed his signature on a bill that literally discriminated against the rights of born Liberians without asking questions. You know what he did next? After he signed the bill, he came back on social media and said, let's discuss the bill. Gentlemen, come to class. Wait a minute. What is the essence of such discussion when you've already affixed your signature to a piece of bill that literally discriminates against the rights of
we are on a president appointment. The issue.
What I'm trying to point out.
Be careful.
Wait a minute. No. What I'm trying to point out. The point that I'm trying to make is people have to understand why is it that when people are single out this gentleman, they're doing it for a reason. Because when you brand yourself as the light and you continue to act on things that represent darkness that have existed for decades, then it raises questions about who you really are. Yeah, and I think these are legitimate questions he needs to answer. He needs to address.
I understand that, but Robert, conclude on the president appointment linking to his doctrine, so that we can bring Darlington in.
But like I said, I won't necessarily connect the president's appointment to his doctrine.
Okay.
I think it has little relevance on what his doctrine actually is.
All right. Thank you.
Focus on policies, right? Obviously, those that he appoints, the making of his government will contribute to his overall legacy, his overall implementation of policy. But I don't think that has much to do with his doctrine.
All right. Thank you. Yanton.
Darlington, do you have a concluding statement on this?
Well, I think the brother is pretty much more passionate about discussing the office of Senator Dillon. So if we do take pleasure in doing that, we can schedule a debate for another day. We can look into, some of the challenges and, progress and success of the office of Senator Dillon. I do not speak for his office, but I follow his activities. So if the brother, is more passionate, because I see, we want to be careful here, Robert, especially going all around the room, because you see here, the issue about citizenship and and naturalization, it carries a whole lot of emotions, and the people.
Darlington is totally subject, but yeah,
let's be very careful here how you as intriguing as these kinds of discussion may sound, how you venture into such discussion.
No. But I'm not interested in discussing.
Gentlemen, if you guys want that debate. I'm not debate, we can bring that debate. We can bring both of you on.
I'm not interested. No, I'm not interested per se in discussing a specific office.
But if the brother wants me to respond to it,
gentlemen, let's bring ourselves to order here. Again, folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. This is the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony Cyr. Lara Mayantan is co-hosting with me, and we are debating. Not debating, but we are discussing the Weah doctrine. Again, we are not debating, but discussing the Weah doctrine, looking at his policies, decisions that he's been making since taking office. Comrade Lara Mayantan, you want to conclude on that so we can move to the next segment?
Well, so that was fascinating section, very, very fascinating. We're looking at the composition of the Weah government and his appointment. We started with Comrade Robert. I think he believes that Weah dropped the ball, specifically talking about the appointment of Nagudisi.
Yeah,
Wagudisi. Yeah. We also talked about the vetting process, and he said that basically the vetting at the level of the executive should be based on legal regulations and codification, which I agree with. As to his own section on the Weah's doctrine relative to appointments made so far, he says the general Liberia thing is a problem that is older than this administration, is something that has been going on for a long time, and so he cannot squarely attribute it to this government alone. Historically, people have been appointed based on relationship and partisanship. And so this is a Liberia problem as opposed to a Weah problem. And so given that accession, he is not in the best position to link appointments to the Weah Doctrine, which in itself is not defined by him. Darlington also said that the president really did not do his homework. He believed the Senate also should have, pressed contempt charges as it relates to the appointment made by Weah. He felt that the Senate only acted rigorously and vehemently as it relates to the appointment of Nawuzizi at the National Elections Commission, because their positions were threatened. As you all know, we are moving fast towards the May 20 election and subsequently the 2023 election. So overall, Darlington believes that Weah Doctrine as it relates to appointment and the composition of the government is based on political patronage and system. So that's it, answer, and then we can move on to the next
segment. All right, thank you. Gentlemen, let's come to our next segment here. And gentlemen, make it brief because after this segment, we have 2 more segments so that we can be within time. As you are aware, because of the technical difficulty, it took us long to get here. So very quickly, we move into unification or reconciliation, the way the president sees it and the way he has made effort, his approach about it, and we'll try to see there whether or not the Weah Doctrine can be defined. So talking about unity, unification or unity or reconciliation, that's the word I want to use, is key to our country because we know where we're coming from. And that should be paramount if we want to have an existence, that is cohesive as a people, given our troubled past. And so any leader should make national reconciliation a priority. And so, but we've seen so far, since President Weah took over, what we want to know is, has the country been more united or more divided since President Weah took office? And if all we can agree that the president was not unified, what has been the Weah approach in terms of fostering national reconciliation? What has been Weah's approach when group of citizens or a segment of the population is aggrieved on the policy issue? What has been the president's approach? What has been the president's approach when it comes to the War and Economic Crime Code? He has a position then, when he was ambassador, when he was in opposition, but now his position has changed, thereby, further dividing Liberians. So let's start with you with this one, on this one, Darlington. How you think the president is doing here?
Well, the president, absolutely, if you want me to put it on a scorecard, I will give an F. The leader of the country is the divider in chief. He uses his religious platform as a tool to respond to people in opposition. Every time Mr. Weah visits, religious institutions, he goes to churches. He uses the pulpit of God, the Most High, to speed out hate and divisiveness among our people. Mr. Weah, the very first time Mr. Weah turned people in opposition, as hateful, was in a local church. Mr. Weah didn't even stop there. He started to call people as, enemies of the state. His supporters started to go after them. When you criticize him, the man resent critical analysis. The man started to go after, critical voices in the country. When Mr. Weah took over, pretty much with, in the first 1 month, I would say with free speech, he was doing very well. 2-3 months down the road, Mr. Weah became very uneasy. He started to go to public places. He went to a local market in Duboro that after June 7, anybody insult me in this country, they will not walk freely. Mr. Weah, it is not, you are not the crown prince of the Republic of Liberia. You are given a 6-year mandate. You are president of the Republic of Liberia for 6 years. It is all of us country. We have the right to put you on the microscope. When Mr. Weah was in the private sector, when he was playing soccer, nobody asked Mr. Weah how he spent his money in Miami or on Florida, Palm Beach. Nobody asked Mr. Weah about his yachts he owned in Florida, about his properties he owned on Staten Island. Nobody questioned Josh Weah about that. But when you are the leader of the country, when you build number of houses, it's our duty to hold you accountable and ask you questions. He started talking about this whole native and Congo divide. What kind of, reactionary is that? Look, Mr. Weah, that is not the substance of the debate. Oh, I come from, you always want to epitomize your story. It comes with so much empathy that people should feel sorry for you. No, Mr. Weah, it is not our duty to feel sorry for you. Yeah, it's our duty to hold you accountable. So on the issue about reconciling our people, we are school F. Fast forwarding to reconciling people in the opposition. When Vice President Weah lost the election, on a featured circumstances, I don't want to go into details. We all know how George Weah won the election. The elections were, fraudulent. There were complaints taken to the court. The court ruled on it. An associate justice of the Supreme Court gave a discernment or dissenting opinion on the opinion of his colleagues, who sit on the Supreme Court bench. George Weah, the vice president, when Weah took over, the vice president, the current vice president, Madam Joe Howard Taylor, they went to visit Oldman Weah. Oldman Joe Weah exercising leadership, open arm to George Weah and the CDC. Unity Party people started going after Joe Weah. Oh, and Joe Weah, you too quiet. No, it was not that Joe Weah, was being pocket paid by Weah. Joe Weah looked at the national interest. This man just took over a country from a heated, intense political combativity. It is just prudent enough that we gave him, let us give him a break. Let us allow Mr. Weah to show his juice. Let us see what juice can be squeezed from in this pineapple. When Mr. Bernard Ure, who come from the ALP, make political analysis, you find people from the very government, or Ure should go and sell his eggs. When Alexander Cummings, raised some reservation about how they are running the economies of the state, when Mr. Cummings do his analysis, they go after Cummings. He should go sell Coca-Cola bottle, short giant, all kinds of garbage to put on social media.
And war crime court.
War crimes court. Mr. Weah is a flop. A leader must be somebody who is very decisive. So Weah had taken a definitive position on the issue about war and economic crimes code. He said he believed that people should be prosecuted when he was in opposition. Weah took over. All we see Mr. Weah doing, running all around and crying baby. The truth of the matter is that Mr. Weah is not serious about war and economic crimes code because he uses ex-warlords, as a way for them to repay for their freedom, a political collective bargaining agreement. Mr. Weah hands are pretty much tied. He cannot go to Senator Prince Johnson with such nonsense. So he retreat to cowardice. He start crying baby on the media. Oh, we are related, Liberians, and just dying the terror. He start crying baby. He looking for empathy on the part of the people. We won the war and economic crime code. We want people who committed huge atrocities during the Civil War to be brought to the discipline of the rule of law. So, Mr. Weah, you start crying here, everybody related. Also, is Mr. Weah also suggesting that we cannot, go after people in government who are corrupt? So should we pass the burden to say, oh yeah, because we are all related? No. When you want to deal with a country on the issue of nation building and reconciliation, you do not look at the issue of family leaning. You do not retreat to these kinds of, petty, how do they call it? Petty relationship.
Thank you. Thank you, Darlington. Thank you, Darlington. Thank you. Thank you very much.
He's not serious yet.
Thank you. Let's come to you, Mr. Gagwa, on the issue of reconciliation. This is key.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic, right? Look, I was one of those Liberians who was very ecstatic about the peaceful transfer of power in over 70 years. I mean, that's a milestone. Over 70 years, we saw a peaceful transfer of power during the last election. I think that the transitional team of the CDC, George Weah and others, I think they made some attempts to reach out to the then vice president, that the election was over and it was time to unite the country and come together to move the country forward. Now, with regards to reconciliation, I think it's important that as we discuss this, like I said, I do not represent any political party in Liberia. It's obvious that my brother Darlington is strictly an opposition who does not support the government. It's very obvious in his deliberations. But I think it's important for us to put things in perspective and be very objective as we discuss these issues. Reconciliation is not a new topic, and I would not sit on this platform and even make the assertion that because Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who was given 12 years, in fact, who was part of the problem, the fact that she did not take a single action towards, how do we reconcile our country with all of the enormous resources that she was given by the international community, baffles me now that we will put all of this on just George Weah.
No, but she appointed Mr. Weah as peace ambassador now.
Well, it was also her responsibility as the president who appointed an individual, you just stated that, as peace ambassador, to ensure that he was getting the job done that she appointed him for. So my question to you is, if he was very inept and inactive in getting the results, the needed results, what actions did she take? Well, that's a different discussion. So let me go back to the point that I'm making. It is a different discussion. Let me go back to the point that I'm making. The reconciliation is very important. But what I've said over and over is that we cannot reconcile in Liberia. We cannot unite in Liberia without ensuring that those who played an integral part in the destruction of our country, those who played a part in lives that were lost of almost 250,000 Liberians, those who took us back all these years, until they are held accountable for their actions, we cannot properly move forward. And I was hopeful. I was one of those guys that were very hopeful with this administration that I didn't expect them to take on as a priority in its first or second year, the establishment of war crimes and economic crimes court, as we had other pressing issues to deal with. But I expected them to start the process to establishing war crimes and economic crimes court. No government will ever successfully fight corruption or defeat corruption in Liberia if we are not serious about establishing war crimes court and economic crimes court. No government, not only this government, no government. It's been proven under Charles Taylor. It was proven under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And I'm afraid that it is going to be proven under George Weah's administration. We have to get serious. We have to be serious. And our actions must match our words and our promises. I believe that the president was for the establishment of war crimes court before he was against. And now the tone has changed to, look, I don't think that's a priority right now. I do agree to some extent that the establishment of war crimes court may not be the top pressing issues, but it is predicated upon how we move our country forward. And I think it's important. We don't have to go and start picking everyone from their homes and say, hey, look, go to court. Funding is another issue, right? But we need a government who is very clear and explicitly clear when it comes to where they stand on holding people who were responsible for the death, the destruction of our country, people who embezzled the Liberian people money. And many of those folks right now, unfortunately, hold influential, powerful positions in government and in decision making. I understand that. But the people, us, and the people in Liberia, and people who are on the front lines advocating for the establishment of war crime court, people like my friend Emmanuel Senvi and others, Kevin and others, I think that we all understand, while we may disagree or have a difference on the approach or on the timing, we all understand how critical it is for us to hold those accountable and bring them to justice. Folks who kill people senselessly, folks who destroy our country, we have to bring them to justice. That's the only way I believe we can unite and move our country forward. But when you have people who were perpetrators still enjoying the country, enjoying the resources of the country, still in positions of power, when victims are still poor and their voices are not being heard, you create a situation where it's very difficult to do that. And I don't know who would not have look at Prince Johnson, for instance. I screamed behind closed door and I said, why is it that Prince Johnson holds such a powerful voice when it comes to who wins the general election? Of course, Nimba County is a very big part of our electorate, but why is it you have a guy who plays such a crucial part in our destruction, having such a key voice?
I know.
What political party would not have accepted his endorsement to become president?
So it's all about what you get and not justice, right, Robert?
Exactly. So we need a leader. We need a leader who is perhaps has a record, a proven record of being a change agent, of being a difference maker, and someone who has a sense of integrity, someone who is a true leader, someone who hands a clean when it comes to this stuff, who is serious about getting the job done. And I don't think we've actually done that.
Thank you. Let me
come in with a follow-up question quickly. I know, Robert, you said the issue of timing and the approach has been at the center of this debate. What is your take on the timing? When do you think the War Crime Code is a necessary bargain for the Liberian people? And what approach you think would be the best approach for implementing it?
Say that again. I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Now, so you mentioned of timing and the approach. Arguing that it is not the right time for the Weah administration, given all of what's going on within his first term. So I was asking as a follow-up, what time do you think would be the best time for the implementation of the War Crime Code?
Well,
and
go ahead.
On the approach, I know Emmanuel Savas and all of those who have been, agitating for the establishment of the War Crime Code, hats off to them. But what approach you think is the right approach to use at this time?
Well, let me just clarify. I didn't say that right is not the right time. I said that the government would argue its priority and what the timing is for them, what the right time is. Now, from my own personal view, I don't think that when a government takes over in its first or second year, when you have a broken economy, I don't think that takes a precedent over War Crimes Court, the establishment of War Crimes Court, especially when that is attached to funding, right? But I'm not saying that to undermine the importance of that establishment. I want to argue about what that right time is, because if we continue to argue what that right time is, then we will support the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government, who had 12 years and never came around the table to discuss that is the establishment of War Crimes Court. In fact, I think there were recommendations made by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that sat on Ellen Johnson's desk that went nowhere because she was affected within their recommendations. And so we have to get serious nationally. There has to be a national consensus as to, is it the right thing to do in the interest of moving our country forward, to hold accountable those who participated in the war. And if I was the one answering that question, I think it's the right thing to do. And I don't see it as targeting people, and I don't see it as us further getting ourselves into problems. I see it as the right thing to do, and I think it's about time that we start the process of getting it done.
Thank you. Yanton.
All right. So thank you very much. I'll just draw the analysis on this. It's a very, very delicate subject when it comes to national unification and reconciliation. And the two, my phone going off.
Yeah, but continue to speak. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah.
We're waiting on you. Camarianta? All right, it seems to be we lost him right there. He will have to leave. He got some important issue to attend to. So, gentlemen, let us continue. Let's move to another segment quickly. Let's try to merge the remaining segments. So I will do this. I will read everything out to us and let us pay attention so that we can narrow it down quickly. So let's go to the segment of accountability. The Weah's approach on accountability. We know that at some point the president said, we are all related. We are looking, we are all related. That was when, even though Mr. Weah said at some point that when it comes to corruption and wherever he was going to find corruption, the law was going to take a course, and at some point when President Weah was being criticized, not being tough on corruption, he came sometime back and said, look, Billy Driver beat it, and by Billy Driver beat it, President Weah meant, okay, you people are saying I'm not tough on corruption. The day I get ready, nobody should cry. All right, then it came to the issue of, are we struggling? And the president at some point said the struggle will end. I mean, what we see today is like, starting to end the struggle is yet to even begin. And then we heard about a 25 million, and our brothers and sisters in the ruling party said, yes, we're going to roll. When it comes to accountability about individuals who were entrusted with that money, and nothing happened. We are yet to see one hair rolling when it comes to the issue of the 25 million. We look at proper budgeting, proper versus the budgeting, and then the government officials' lifestyle. Let's talk about feminism. The president said he is the chief feminist, but the very chief feminist, what we see here is that before you get a job, if you are a female, you either have to be ice cream, and or you have to be some kind of cookies in order to get a job in government. And then when it comes to economics, we heard about a map up. The map up, I talk about the 25 million naira, no accountability whatsoever. Then we hear about new bank knows that the economics. We hear about D-hole, cover hole versus borrowing initiatives. We hear about harmonization, price controls all over the place, and then the prices are continuing to go high, even though the prices have been pronounced to be controlled by the Commerce Ministry. So, gentlemen, this is our first, last segment, rather, and it's all loaded. Let's start with you, Darlington. How's the president doing?
It's always a very good question. Well, how is the president doing? I'm reading some of the comments here, by few, fanatics of President Weah. Mm-hmm. But let me say to them that one thing I will not do on this platform is to open a magic box of praises. If I wish I had a magic box, that I could open up and shower praises on Mr. Weah, he's doing this, he's doing that. The truth is, there are times where we want to, applaud the government for progress. But no, I'm an emerging student of economics. We do not give analysis based on, on minimal contribution. We look at the overall aggregate. If you want me to applaud Mr. Weah for security, I should see what he's doing with all of the security sector. If you want me to applaud Mr. Weah on education, I should see what Mr. Weah is doing. But some seditions here, they want me to, open a magic box and start to praise President Weah. And that's not going to happen on this platform. But let me respond to your question here. You see, when Mr. Weah took over, I heard my brother talking about Weah took over a broken economy. No, let's be clear. Would you stop blame shifting and, and continue to look at the stones of the past and start to cry baby and cry foul? Mr. Weah was elected presumably on a mantra of change. You argue in opposition for 12 years. You were that player that was on the bench. You saw the pitfalls of the striker. You knew the wavelength of the game. When upon your entry to the game, you knew that at that point in time, you must deliver goals because you were in injury time. That your people, according to you, quote unquote, have suffered for 12 years on the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf regime. But you come to power, you are crying and telling us, oh, there was a particular booth that you can play in and you left it at home. We don't do that on the soccer page. if you sit on the bench for up to the first half, and at the end of the second half, the coach brings you on the team, you can't give the coach excuses. You must perform. So crying here about Madame Salif or Ellington, no. Madame Salif in post-war Liberia was one of the presidents who took over a broken, nothing, absolutely no structure. Madame Salif, she took over a budget of less than 80 million. I stand to be correct on that. Minimal resources. So, but you see, leadership is about not crying, baby. It's about taking responsibility and your ability to outsource resources. This is where the economy is. And I'm going to be very clear. Madame had her ability to look for resources. She had ways of bringing monies into the country to attract foreign direct investment. Unlike Mr. Weah, he do not have the technical capacity to attract foreign direct investment. So what they're doing, the whole country right now, they are digging hole and covering hole. That's why the borrowing initiative is interplaying. All we do now in our country is collecting rent from concession companies to run government functionaries, to pay fabulous salaries to lawmakers, to pay the executive, the office of the president, huge budget, to look in us in petty cash of 1.5 for the office of the first lady. So Weah is all over the place. You're not bringing nothing into the national basket. But your expense is more than your income. Weah is just spending money, credit, and borrowing, even going to the coffers of our international friends. Over 9 ambassadors. They wrote Mr. Weah administration a communication about reporting on time. You know, people who study accounting, I'm not good at accounting, but there are SOP, there are standing operating procedures about accounting principle that you must report in this time. Misapplication of entrusted resources do not necessarily mean that there is corruption. When we give you $10, you're supposed to report to us in 2 weeks. You can't come out in 1 month and tell you're ready to make a report. No. The procedure is that when you take resources, you account for those resources. So international friends were crying on Mr. Weah. You could see gross incompetence in Mr. Weah administration in addressing the issue of the economy. You have Samuel Tuah who took over the Ministry of Finance. They both fiscal let me put it this way. How do they call it? The financial expert, the economic management team, you know, quote unquote, as they call them. The economic management team, they came to the Liberian people and brought a policy prescription that because of the high inflation, that the Liberian dollars have been devalued on the market, they came with a policy prescription that they needed $25 million to infuse into the economy. Was that a suggestion from the opposition? Did Darlington Collins bring that suggestion up to the Weah administration? Did the folks in the Liberty Party suggested that to the Weah administration? They said to us, the economy is struggling now, that if we give you paracetamol, 2 or 3, 4 doses of this paracetamol, you'll be okay. They brought that recommendation to us. The opposition didn't go crying and knocking on their doors. They said the economy is messed up. We need to, infuse $25 million into the economy. They brought that suggestion to us. So what happened? You gave Mr. Samuel Tuah, mop bucket to go and mop up, quote unquote, excess liquidity on the Liberian market. Later on, even the very committee that Mr. Weah commissioned, 2 different committees, they verified that there were fraud. That they made recommendation to the office of the president that you need to ensure that these people be prosecuted. Kalino Amando's Minister Samuel Tuah, her name came under the microscope. So you hear crying baby. There were reports about Foreign Exchange Bureau, ghost names, pseudonyms. They added names on the bureau. They went to some places. They changed 500,000. They inflected the number, some of those in the report to $1 million, $2 million. So Samuel Tuah, I don't know where money started to filter in. But again, if this president, was very sincere on the basis of integrity, the president hires and fires at will. So is the president is telling me that he's cutting cards with Samuel Tuah? That the president is the one who's paying he's paying the piper, and then President Weah is dancing to Samuel Tuah's tune?
And narrow that down to the Weah or Doctrine in terms of this economic management or economic policies of President Weah.
But that is the contradiction I just identified to you. It is a whole game, you know, a scheme. You know, he pretends at some point that you're serious about, you know, fighting corruption. You want to hold people accountable. Mr. Weah, when he took office in January of 2018 at the Samuel Kando Sports Complex, Mr. Weah said to us, when some of us even were very apprehensive, that in the course of the people, the struggle must end. I said, what do this man understand about the people's struggle? What do you understand about the economic conditions of our people? You do not just come here and just throw jabs, the struggle, because we hear political people talking about struggle. What is your understanding about struggle?
All right.
So we didn't stop there. He said that people who are corrupt, they will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. In court, that is Mr. Weah's word. Those are not my words. That people who are corrupt, they will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. It's going nearing over 2 years. Name me one public official. In fact, they set up an asset recovery team. Where is that today? In the toilet. Because they wanted to break the legs of Amara Khan and other people afraid. You know, they thought there was going to be collective bargaining where people were going to put little monies around here.
Thank you.
He said people will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Up to today's date, where is Mr. Weah on the issue about ensuring that people are prosecuted in court to the full extent of the law?
Where is Mr. Weah? Where is Mr. Weah when it comes to prosecuting people to the full extent of the law? Darlington Collins there concluding on this segment. Mr. Gagwa, quickly.
Well, look, I wish that you had someone else from the CDC to counter what my brother Darlington just said, because again, I'm not a seditious and I do not speak on behalf of the government. My loyalty is to my country, Liberia. And so where wrong is, I speak. Where there's a need to employ, I will. And so he spoke like an opposition. He is an opposition. I don't think Darlington sees anything good from
Robert, I'm sorry.
No, let him speak. Darlington, give him a chance.
I don't think, and anyone listening can make their own assumption. Look, I didn't like Ellen Jones and Salih for personal reasons, right? Because my integrity just didn't align with hers. I just didn't, right? Because I don't think people like her deserve the opportunity, like we did Charles Sutter in '97, to fix what they've broken. And even when you give them an opportunity, you know, they fail. They fail greatly. And so, but I commended her on certain things that she did. The way we looked at opposition and ruling party in Liberia is so that we see everything wrong with the ruling party and nothing wrong with the opposition. Let me give you an example. We are in a national crisis for God's sake. Have the opposition written a national work frame to address what our people are going through right now? With the exception of Alice Cummings, who from ANC, who wrote the president expressing his interest to work in this national crisis as an opposition leader. Has it been a national work frame from the opposition in how we go about doing this? Again, I see things a little differently. I think just as much as the government has primary responsibility to lead, I believe that the opposition has to be honest. They have to exemplify or exhibit behavior that shows that they are indeed the alternative. I haven't seen that. And so my position on certain issues is just reflective on the fact that, look, how do you trust people who present themselves as change agent, as the alternative, whose action does not match what it is that they claim to be? And so look, it's clear that he's in opposition, and I think that if we're having a debate on the Weah government and that achievement, I don't think I'm the right guy to be opposing my brother, because I don't speak on behalf of the government. But here is what I am going to say. What I am going to say is that I'm not an economist. I have friends who understand the economy, and so when I have questions, I call them. And I'm not going to pretend to be one. I'm not an economist. But what I've said is that I've publicly called on the dismissal of the president chief economist, Samuel Weah. I've did this publicly, and I've done this publicly, because I believe that, regardless of what economy that was inherited by this president, it comes a certain time where it becomes your economy. It comes to certain times where you have to stop the blame game and start taking responsibility. And I've said that. Yes, if you are honest enough, you would agree that there was nothing in our coffers. I mean, the country was broke. The country was broke when George Weah took over. But it's been almost 3 years into his administration. The question now turns into, what have they done to address the issue? And that has been my concern. And so when you have a chief economist whose economic policies have not actually moved water, then it's time as a leader to go back and hit the reset button. And that's what I would have done. That's what I've suggested. I think it's time to re-engage. I think it's time for reshuffling. I think it's time to get rid of certain people who have been ineffective, whose policies and suggestions have not worked in specific key areas. It's time to get rid of them. But again, if you were going to connect that primarily with what the Weah Doctrine is, then I would say that this is not just the Weah Doctrine. This is the Liberian political doctrine, because this is not new. The appointment of unqualified people in government only because they are not connected to helping the election of our leaders, only because they don't have relationship with our leaders, only because they don't have connections with our leaders. It's nothing new.
Robert.
This is what this playbook has been. We've seen this play before. And so I would not say, let me conclude. I wouldn't say that.
I'm trying to give you a chance to talk. I just want to ask a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Robert, you are right. This is not new. We have seen it all happening over and over again. But we were given this hope for change, that it will get better. You heard Mr. Weah when he said the struggle will end. You heard Mr. Weah when he said, look, wherever we find corruption, the full extent of the law will be used. Those were Mr. Weah's words. And that is why people are trying to hold him accountable. And I agree, right, for the soul, because the people have suffered so much. And so when anybody is siphonning state resources, Mr. Weah won't be able to live his own words by holding those individuals accountable. And this is my question. How will you define Weah economics? Because this is Weah economy now. With all the things that you see happening, you agree Samuel Twelve should be fired and replaced. But he is the guy that Weah is using to turn our economy around. What kind of economy we have? What kind of Weah economics is this?
Look, I don't believe in taking from the poor and to give to the poor.
Okay.
I don't believe in such an economy.
Is that what he's doing?
Well, it seems like that's what they have attempted to do. I don't believe in, if you looked at the
attempted to do?
I'll use the word attempt.
Okay. All right.
I'll use the word attempt. Well, it looks like that's what has happened.
Okay.
Take away from the poor and give to the poor. I don't believe in that economy, because again, the poor become poor, and it still doesn't nationally address what the issue actually is. I think there has to be a more comprehensive, holistic approach to our economies, and a part of that would include the recruitment of young people who understands today's economy, who understands common sense economy. We have to get on board people who are not necessarily elected to our politics, who did not necessarily campaign for us, but who understands how to get the job done. And this is what I've advocated for years. This is what I've said for many years, even during Ellen Jones' time. And we have not done that. And so I don't believe in, if the poor don't even have much that they already earn, what good does it do for them and their families, or the economy in general, to take from them to give to somebody else? So I don't believe in that economy. But what I do know, Mr. Sonnen, is that this economy has not worked. The economic plan headed by our finance minister, Simon Twer, has not proven to be impactful. And I think if I was the president, I would put aside personal relationship, and I would focus on my legacy and meeting the promises that I made to the Liberian people. That's what matters, and I think that should be a priority. I think it has to go.
Yeah, Mr. Collins, we have to conclude here quickly. Go for it.
Let me respond to something my brother said. And I think I've been listening to a lot of mixed reaction in the press, especially with people asking questions. What is the opposition doing? And I want to deal with this thing here very carefully. You see, we must be very careful here. Robert is saying, "Oh, you haven't seen it." It is not the opposition job to fight the coronavirus. It is not the opposition job to fight coronavirus. What the opposition can do is to advance policy recommendations to the government in combating coronavirus. That is the only duty the opposition have. You tell me, where on the West African continent that citizens of the country pay money to their government or to political party for what do you call monthly dues? In Liberia, do Liberian citizens pay monthly dues to political parties? Political parties do not have, resources or set capital in their bank accounts that when there is national emergency, they start running for charitable work. That is not a role of a political party. Political party stay politically and policy engaged with the power that be, and proper policy recommendation and alternative. You want to cry out, but what opposition doing? No, it's not our job. It's the opposition. Are we the one collecting lawful revenues? Are we the one controlling the national treasury? Are we the one running the Ministry of Health? Are we the one that the World Bank just gave $50 million to? These monies are sufficient enough that the government can set up serious working tool. In Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, the Ghanaians are producing their own PPE. He's not telling you the opposition needs to come and donate. No opposition in Ghana is making donation to the ruling party. Show me where in Africa the opposition political parties are making financial contribution to their government. We must be factual. I started comparative government and politics. In political science, when you want to make political analysis, you look at different countries' political situation. You compare political parties to parties, government to governments. You can't come here and you say, what is the opposition doing? The opposition having done. It's not our job. We are not the one that running the national, the NPA, the National Port Authority, the gateway to the nation's economy. We're not the one that's running the Freeport, the Rabat International Airport. It is not our job. We are not even the one that's running the LRA. Political parties are in Liberia, they are mostly sponsored by political leaders. Those resources are their personal resources. If they choose to come to public to do charitable work, we clap for them. But do not come here and say, what is the political party, what the Unity Party do? It's not the Unity Party's job. It's not the Liberty Party job. But in our country, we reduce the issue about emergency response to bucket and rice. So haven't you seen the Liberty Party do financial and material contributions? Haven't you seen that? Didn't you see the ALP do theirs? Or the Unity Party, the brothers of the Unity Party do theirs also? I do not come from any of these political parties. I'm opposition political voice, yes. But it is not the opposition job to come here and say, we want to help government in combating the coronavirus. The government signed up to a singular responsibility under the social contract theory. We gave you power, you provide social services. In times of crisis, it is your job to do that. It is not our job to come. We don't share our job with the government. In opposition, we don't share job with the government. The government has their duty and they must do their job. They are the one running the Freeport. They are the one running the airport, the seaport, all these things, they're chilling. Bogugba is acquiring private properties. He's importing ice cream. Just the other day, Fatou came from Norway. I don't know wherever country she came.
Germany. She came from Germany.
Germany importing ice cream. If he's not importing ice cream, he's importing sunshine. It is not our job to you want opposition to make contribution to the Public Health Institute.
All right, Darlington.
You want us to run our own clinical laboratories? Who have
right.
laboratories?
All right, Darlington. Hold on, Robert.
Let me respond. Let me just go right into it.
Yeah, you will respond, but let me say that, Rabbi, I'm coming to you. I mean,
Please don't make my point.
Doesn't he have a point here that the opposition is not the one running the affairs of the country, is not in charge of the economy, neither are they in charge of our institutions of government. They are not. Yep. And by the way, when CDC was in opposition, we didn't see them, responding to crisis, or as government. They never did so. And to be fair, also, opposition figures within their respective institutions are making contribution. I saw the COP making contribution. I saw individuals making contribution. And most of these individuals, many of them are in the opposition community. I'm not saying you're in the opposition community, but as a Liberian, you made a contribution. I made a contribution through my institution. Liberians everywhere, we are all combating them. When you are talking about a national response, what do you want the opposition to do? To tell the government, oh yeah, we are, come and use us? So what are you saying?
So unfortunately, I got a very, very, in very strong terms, strong terms, disagree with Darlington. And I respect I respect the young man tremendously. Okay. But I think this mindset about whose job it is in a national crisis is unfortunate. It is not, no one is insinuating or certain that it is the opposition job to lead in a national crisis. But in a national crisis, it is all of our jobs as Liberian citizens to combat the enemy. In a national crisis such as this, it's not about politics.
And you think they're not doing that?
No, I don't think they're doing it effectively because of the mindset such as what my brother just expressed. He talks about, look, I haven't taken a political science class, and hopefully I get to take one very, very soon.
But I can offer you one.
There you go. I'll be glad to learn. But I haven't taken a political science class. But you don't need to take a political science class to understand what actions are needed in a national crisis. Let me give you an example. During Ebola, right. It wasn't the responsible. It wasn't only the sole responsibility of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf-led government to combat and fight Ebola. If it was up to the government, we probably would not have defeated Ebola as quickly and as effectively as we did. It was all of our responsibility, opposition leadership, private institutions, organizations, so forth and so on. It is all of our responsibility in a national crisis such as a health crisis like this to come together and fight the disease. This is where we put politics aside. Are we going to disagree on approach, on government approach? Yes, we do. But this is when we come with our own suggestions and say, hey, here's what I think needs to be done. I'll give you an example. In America, I'm not trying to compare America to any parts of Africa, but how do you think that the U.S. was able to respond to the economic part of the this pandemic? How do you think they were able to do that? Democrats and Republicans from two different major institutions with fundamental differences had to come together, put aside their differences, and pass an unprecedented $2 trillion relief package.
But Robert, I thought we did that in Liberia. We have a stimulus.
I just want to say this.
Let me land. I'm not going to be interrupted. Let me finish. We didn't do that. We didn't do that in Liberia. And if we did that in Liberia, then my brother here will understand to not say it is not our job. We are not in government. We do not run these institutions. We are not the one running the Freeport. We are not the one who was sent the $50 million. I said earlier, there's a very important reason why you have three branches of government. Okay? You have three branches of government to have an effective government and to protect the rights of the citizen, check and balances. So again, it is not just the responsibility of the executive in time of crisis. It is also the responsibility of our lawmakers. It is all of us responsibility to come and say, hey, how do we defeat this virus? And all of us in our little ways can do our own thing to help defeat this virus. So this mindset about whose responsibility it is in a national crisis to lead, to defeat a virus, or to do this, I think it's absurd. It is our responsibility. Every Liberian citizen, it is our responsibility, because those that's going to be affected, those that are currently impacted by this virus, are not necessarily seditious, are not necessarily unity partisan, are not labeled party partisan. They are Liberians. They don't come from particular counties. They are Liberians. So
thank you, Robert. Point made.
Let me finish. We have to change this mindset. We have to change this mindset when it comes to what are our responsibilities, not just as government, but as patriots, as Liberian citizens. What are our responsibilities when it comes to national crisis? And it's unfortunate that in a national crisis, we will want to politicize it rather than coming together to defeat it.
Let me squeeze
quickly, Darlington.
Something in here. You see, it would be very good if Brother Robert come out of his political closet, you know, and wear his CDC garment in debate. But I understand sometimes the political party is associated with failure. People try to find scapegoats. But you guys are the one making political arguments. So even argue what is the opposition doing is a political statement. In America, you made a very, very good analysis about America having bipartisan, you know, agreement up front, have a bipartisan front. In Liberia, opposition lawmakers are in the Senate. They agree with the lower house, agree with the lower house on the state of emergency. The very same people in the opposition, they're running around and accusing Senator Daniel Onapo for receiving $6,000 for passing the state of emergency. But they do not have the courage to condemn the person who is supposedly giving bribe. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that the executive may possibly have bribed her way to the Liberian legislature. The person who offered bribe is equally guilty as the man who accepted bribe. So you're telling us in Liberia, they look at the Senate. You have opposition senators. They agree. If these lawmakers could have rejected the president's state of emergency proposal and rejected this sensational, as good as it was sound to the ear, rice distribution, the news squad going haywire, that opposition people, they're trying to politicize their fight against the coronavirus. You're talking about collective fight? The opposition is even more willing, and they have always been cooperative with the government on the fight against the coronavirus. Some of us will use our different platform here to even agree with the president that Liberia should social distance. But look in the country today, the government, the chief executive is leading the fight. You're talking about going for 6,000 contact tracers. When people who fought in the fight the Ebola virus disease, many of those 1,000 contact tracers, they are not even on the list of the MCC. I challenge the MCC to produce the list of those 6,000 contact tracers. Then people say, oh, we should. No, let me tell you something. In politics, that is why when you do economics, they tell you, we gave you your duty, separation of division of labor. Everybody has that role to play. I cannot be a mechanic and be a plumber at the same time. Social contract, we gave you a singular responsibility. Show me where in Ghana, I told you about the sub-region. Where, you see, where the NDC in Ghana giving Kofu-Addo bucket or the other opposition political party. It is not our job to do that. The responsibility we have as good citizens is to continue to provide education and information to our people so that they can listen to the public health experts rather than the politicians. So you stop making this fight is not political. What opposition is our duty? I would say I don't sugarcoat, I undress it, as deal with it as it unfolds.
Gentlemen, I think we have to leave it there. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Well, one second.
I'm coming to you, Rabbi. Hold on. I know you're hungry to talk, and I like that. I'm enjoying the energy the both of you brought to the conversation. You know, I wish we have not had technical difficulty when we started. They would have been a blast. But quickly, guys, we can't be here for over 2 hours. That would not be fair to us, even though the conversation is juicy. I mean, I can allow us to go, but that would not be prudent. So we have to close it up. This is what we're going to do. Management can allot you another time for the both of you to come and discuss some other national issues, and I think that would be a good thing. And so with that said, gentlemen, we have to conclude it, and let's start with you, Robert, and I will give you as much time as you want. You have the maximum of 3 minutes to wrap this up, and then we can leave from here. So your closing statement.
Thank you again for the invitation. It's always a privilege to be here to discuss national issues relative to our growth and development. I want to make clear, like I did earlier, I do not come from any political party. My loyalty lies with Liberia. I try to be as objective as I can be. On this show, I've pointed out lackings of the government. I've pointed out areas where I thought the government needed to improve. I've agreed with my friend Darlington on issues when it comes to the economy. We talk about the dismissal of Simon Twed, and I've for those listening who followed me, they can attest to that. I've publicly and privately in my conversations called for that. Liberia is my interest, and I think Liberia should be all of our interests when it comes to our growth and development. I just want to use 30 seconds to talk about what he said in Ghana. Ghana has a very mature politics than Liberia, and I think Kofi Addo actually showed leadership when he reached out to his political opponents in a conference, in a meeting, to discuss ways to address this virus. They met, they put forth their suggestions. They were willing to meet. In Liberia, I know there were other undertones disagreement with regards to this, but I remember recently when the president went to Carisburg and met with the chairman of the CPP, and they distributed some food stuff. I know there was a political undertone there, but a lot of folks in the opposition didn't like it. People insulted him, why he had to do it, why he had to make certain comments, and so forth and so on. And so I want to compare that with Liberia. We have to change our mindset for us to get to where we're trying to get to. The last time I checked, our leaders, especially our lawmakers and our politicians from the executive down, were not elected to be humanitarians. They were not elected to carry out charitable work. Leave that to us. They were not. Most of the accomplishment of 80% of our lawmakers and our politicians are surrounded around charitable achievements. What happens to drafting bills that reflect the serious issues that will leave a lasting impact on our people, be it educational reform, be it the economy, be it job creation? Why we always have to look at a representative or politician accomplishment when it comes to putting his face on a bucket? I'm not a politician, but I can buy 100 buckets for Liberians. I can buy bags of rice. I can do these things. We need to get serious when it comes to holding our leaders accountable and getting serious about why the primary objective of the election, why they were elected. They were elected to do a particular piece of work, and that has nothing to do with charitable work. And so I'm very hopeful when it comes to Liberia. I meet a lot of young people that I interact with all the time. I think we are upbringing a new breed of leadership, a new generation of Liberians with different mindset. And I'm hopeful that in my lifetime, we will get to a place where we've always desired, a place where honesty matters, a place where technocrats actually matters, a place where we recruit qualified people, not based on connections and friendship or politics, but people who can get the job done, or not even based on ethnic differences or ethnic background. People who love their country, people who can get the job done, and people who are genuine. So again, thank you for the invitation. I look forward to being a part of a future discussion. Thank you. And thank you to Darlington for being a part as well.
All right, Darlington.
Well, thank you. I mean, you could see my brother was trying to struggle to, decide whether he wears his independent garment or his partisan garment. Well, I think he's a very respectful, decent young man, a patriot. I think he means well for his country. There might be, little contradictions, in some of his arguments, which we sharpen here very much so on this platform here. I think he means well. I'll also look forward to the day where, all Liberian citizens, regardless of where you come from, he comes from the tourism, sector, where he can, come with his serious expertise on how we can, open the issue about tourism, how we can find more tourists trying to go to our coast, nice beaches we have in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Those could be, revenue generating sources, for government. It's not just, the ones we already have running. As I conclude on your platform, Anthony, I appreciate you for bringing me on this platform. And let me say here that it wasn't a waste. I appreciate the interaction. I think, when I try to be at my best when I've been quizzed, rather when I'm just having a monologue, when I'm having these kinds of intellectual conversation, because I love to debate. Because with debate is where you have the issue of reasoning and high analytical, details that go through a lot of this conversation and debate. So the opposition will be the opposition. The job of the opposition is to provide policy recommendation to the government. We hope that Mr. Weah will listen to recommendation coming from brothers from the opposition community and start going after his people he considers political rivals. Look, let me tell you something. If Mr. Weah decides to do well for the country today, Anthony, some of us will have no arguments, will have no basis to argue or to condemn Brother Weah. If Mr. Weah wants to be sincere about national reconciliation and development, will not be running around and be bashing President Weah. No, but we do. Look at where the country has come from. After all these years, our people, we still haven't come of age. For after 170 plus years in this day and age, we are still debating the issue about rice and bucket politics. When other countries are making serious, progress in science and technology.
Right.
They're making progress in, a serious healthcare delivery system.
Absolutely. Yep.
But Africa oldest republic, we're talking a bucket and rice. But again, I don't blame, the people get the leader they deserve. What kinds of leader do we elect to public office? What is the expectation that we set for public officials? Lawmakers are not humanitarian. They don't engage in charitable work.
Right.
The lawmakers have three cardinal responsibilities: lawmaking, representation, and oversight. And that is why, as nice as Representative Honorable Sir Joseph appears in the Liberian Senate now, you know why he would grab 3 ambulances, mount his picture on it in parade, people will say Sir Joseph is doing well. I'm the first person to say that Sir Joseph is the most underperformed lawmaker ever in the history of our country. If Honorable Sir Joseph or Senator Sir Joseph mean well for the issue of health, I want to see Sir drafting a bill on healthcare reform. Telling us how we can establish the issue about service centers, separate the country into region. You have the North Health, the Northeast region EMS response team. Sir Joseph, he has a lot of brilliant ideas with healthcare. Condense that into a singular national agenda. Now he's the chair on the executive. He carries a lot of influence in the Liberian Senate. He's the chairman on the executive. But when people go from the lower house and they go to the upper house for confirmation, the kinds of questions he'll be asking, can you call GB? The reason why he was laissez-faire for doing his job, because the lady he was questioning is the social chicken soup of the Senate Pro Tem Abachi. I look forward to the day that even if Anthony is the Speaker of the legislature, when I go there for the Pro Tem of the Senate, if I go there for Senate confirmation hearing, you should scrutinize me, hold me accountable. If I am not qualified, do not give me the job. That is the Liberia I look forward to. But the compromise, that is what Sir Joseph, he made buffoon clown of himself, buffoonery comments in plenary. Can you call GB? This lady had no working experience. The only job she had was a gas analyst at LPRC. And then you're going to confirm such person to send out to the National Elections Commission? And then another lady came. Mr. William Mason, the lady now was the acting commissioner. She had been in elections business. She had been in elections business. I mean, she come to the table with some knowledge and understanding. Look at the guy, the fraud singing guy. That guy has been proven to be a proven fraud. That guy was being ruled on by a local election magistrate. There was a ruling on fraud. But yet yesterday, he's been confirmed by the Senate. So how will our society come of age? We compromise on these little things that matter. And actually, behind the camera, you know me, I'm not going to engage in some conversation here, for obvious things. But I have friends and family members who have been appointed by this president. They have been scrutinized. Some of them have been left. But where is my sense of consciousness? I do not, take solace up because I'm a friend to Brother X and the president nominated. I hold them accountable.
Thank you.
Are we doing our honest part? We all may not be here for a very long time.
So
People
true.
live 90, 100 years. This is a short time. We have limited time on planet Earth. What matters the most is what echoes in eternity, the way we govern ourselves in public office. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Asonisi.
So on that note, I think he made a very compelling closing statement, and which a lot of which I concur with. Thank you.
All right. Again, gentlemen, we want to say thank you, folks in cyberspace. We want to say thank you. As also, we want to say we apologize that we could not even read your comments, neither take some phone calls. We are sorry about that, but I think we were able to give you a conversation that we all benefited from. On that note, my name is Anthony Sie. The network is focused on Liberia, and the program you have been watching is the Hour of Politics. You will not be able to get any exchange on any platform, anywhere in the Liberian community other than focus on Liberia, especially on this program, the Hour of Politics, because when we come here, we bring people together to debate the national issues that affect us all. That's how we do it here. We educate, we elevate, we promote all things Liberia. I want to say to you, coronavirus is real. Don't take chances with that deadly virus. Be safe, protect yourself and your family. And here at Focus on Liberia, we are saying to you, bye-bye. Thank you.